Not only does it look like he's the killer of Elizabeth Short, but I discovered that he's a serial killer. My dad was also investigated 18 months before the Dahlia murder for the suspected overdose murder of his secretary. It was listed as a suicide. They couldn't prove it. There were other murders too. 3 weeks after the murder of Elizabeth Short, there was another murder, and it was Jean French. Her body was nude, posed on a vacant lot about 5 miles west of the Dahlia crime scene. She was blunt force trauma to the head, just like the Dahlia was. And the killer took a lipstick and wrote an obscenity, you, and signed it BD for Black Dahlia. Then there was a Louise Springer, who was kidnapped just 2 blocks away from the Dahlia crime scene. She was strangled, she was sexually assaulted, and brutally beaten to death. That's another one they're saying is definitely connected. He was an urban terrorist. He terrorized Los Angeles, sending in the taunting notes to the police and the press. He was an extreme narcissist who wanted to remain above the fold in the newspapers. I see him as a misanthrope, a classic sadist. He hated women. He was pure evil.
Well, Steve's talking about the personality of his own father, and while we're on that topic, I want to add to our conversation Dr. Robert Shug, a forensic psychologist and professor of criminology at Long Beach State University. Obviously, this is a very intelligent guy, right?
Seems to be. I mean, I think we can sort of look at how the crime scene evidence suggests the type of person that would do this, and then we can also look at your dad and see how good of a fit he is for someone who might commit this type of murder. Yeah. And so when we look at the crime scene, we definitely, it suggests anger, hostility, even hatred of women. It suggests sort of sexuality fused with aggression. It suggests someone who is a bright person, yet at the same time can control their impulses and plan and organize. It suggests someone, as you said, with medical knowledge, knowledge of anatomy, someone who's a bit callous and lacking empathy, right, in terms of the pre-mortem torture, as well as the posing in public for some sort of unsuspecting passerby to be traumatized by. And then, as you said, Steve, the narcissism, along with the brazen act of posing the body and then taunting the police and the media afterwards. He wanted this to be found, and he wanted to make a statement.
When we look at the crime scene photo, we see that there was some real exhibitionistic type posing, and this was out meant to be found, meant to have shock value. The body was cut in half, and they said, and that's not easy to do, by the way.
No.
This does take somebody with some skill, right?
It's called a hemicorpectomy, and there's a specific vertebrae that you have to cut through with a scalpel, and they teach this, or at least they taught this in medical schools at that time. So it's a sophisticated amount of knowledge to be able to even pull this off.
Yeah, so this wouldn't have been an impulse.
Doesn't seem like it, and also adding to that, I think the washing and cleansing of the body, the scrubbing it to remove fingerprints, the sort of way in which it was dragged and posed, it doesn't really line up with someone who was doing this spur of the moment, not thinking before they act.
Yeah, and he was a very meticulous, methodical sort of guy.
He was a trained surgeon to begin with, so he certainly had the skill, and there was no question in LAPD and the experts' minds that it had to have been a skilled surgeon.
And he was taunting the police, someone was taunting the police, whether it was the killer or someone that was posing as the killer or whatever, but if he was taunting the police, that would be consistent with this narcissistic...
Very much, this grandiosity and this arrogance that Steve talks about that he actually witnessed.
Yeah, all of these notes he wanted to be above the fold in the newspapers. I mean, this was a very important part of his egotism and his narcissism.